So we were both out of town, and I got the call. I saw the call coming in. I didn't take the call. Whatever they're going to say, I'm just going to go and enjoy my weekend. And whatever it is, I'm going to think about it, and we're going to decide what we're going to do. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to come back negative. Everything's going to be fine. Like, nothing to worry about. And I was thinking in my head, yeah, it's going to come back negative. There's not going to be any issues. On Monday, she went to work, and I called the doctor to find out. I was expecting them to say, yeah, everything's fine. It's just negative. But they told me, it was positive, and I started crying. I called my cousin, come pick me up. We rushed down to go tell my wife, and I remember going up to her. As soon as she sees me at her work, she knows right away, like, why am I there? And she starts crying. So, but looking back, it's one of those things, you're sad and you're upset about it, but telling all the parents now I have this amazing son.
Well, I love the San Gabriel Valley.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from, in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you again for spending this time with us. Well, David, I've been watching your stuff online, and I was surprised that I don't even know how we connected, but we met up for drinks at a local, I think it was a boba shop in San Marino, and you're back from Greece now.
Oh man, what a trip that was! Yep.
And I got to live vicariously, through your videos.
There's going to be so much more content that's coming from that, so you're going to be sick of Greece.
Did you get any paid stuff from that?
I didn't.
Okay.
I thought about reaching out to some places, some restaurants, and I actually have I have a handful of Greek friends that live out here that connected me with places, but I didn't bother reaching out. I just wanted to enjoy the vacation, but I did take a lot of content.
I see. Okay. And I think since I started following you, that was some content that was like just you, and I got to see a little bit more about you and your life versus just the food content stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. So
yeah, I'm trying to do more of that. I'm actually I want to incorporate my wife, probably maybe incorporate my kids, and just kind of show everything outside of just the food. I show a little bit of my workouts here and there, but I want to venture off. Well, I'll never venture off the food. It's always going to be about food, but show a little bit more lifestyle.
I see. Okay. Well, before we get into that story, thank you to Paris Baguette for sponsoring the delicious pastries each and every week for our guests. If you haven't already, go check them out in the city of San Gabriel, on Las Tunas and Mission, and say hi to Jason and Joanna for us. Born and raised in the SGV, Jefferson Intermediate to San Gabriel High School, he grew up with a deep love for food, cooking with family, discovering new flavors everywhere, and celebrating cultural roots through cuisine. After 15 plus years in digital marketing and a job loss in 2015, he merged passion with expertise, started Gold Line LA to spotlight food and restaurants along the Gold Line, built pop-ups, and eventually stepped in front of the camera. Now brands like McDonald's, Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Metro LA, and the Rams call him for content, and he's proud to be a full-time food creator. Through it all, he's a husband, father to twin boys, golfer, fitness lover, and storyteller of flavor and community. You know him as Best of Food LA. Please welcome to the show, David Marquez. David, welcome to the show.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. And it's funny because I see your face and I'm like, dude, I see this guy every day.
It's hilarious. You know how many times I've been in places and it's actually my voice people recognize. They'll turn around and look like, I recognize that voice. Then they see me. It's really odd.
Do you like that, or do you sort of shy away from that?
No, I love it. I love it. If they recognize me, I love people to come up to me and sometimes I'll see people kind of looking at me and I don't know if they recognize me or maybe they've seen my videos, so they don't know exactly where they know me from. I get a lot of people saying that I have a familiar face. I don't know what it is. But no, I love it. I welcome it. It is a little strange to me because I didn't get into this to be on camera, but I like it.
I do not like it. And then so you probably don't see me a lot on our stuff, even though there's a lot of content out there, but that's by intention, right? I don't want that. I want my life to remain, as private as possible. So I do get kind of weirded out when someone recognizes me because I'm like, there's not that much stuff showing my face.
Right.
So it's kind of weird, but this is not about me. This is about you, David. So let's start with, what's your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
Well, I was raised in San Gabriel. I was actually down Walnut Grove and Broadway, not too far from here. I was raised in the area. I went to schools in San Gabriel, Roosevelt Elementary, Wilson Elementary, and then right across the street from us, back then it was Jefferson Intermediate, also Monterey Park area. I went to school out there.
Okay.
So this is where, not necessarily born, but raised in the area.
Okay. I got that because every time I would post something about the high school area or whatever, you would comment. And I was like, this dude's from here.
Yeah. I think that's how we got connected, right? I was always in the comments. I love the different stories that come up because I actually haven't been living in this area. I'm close by for, 20 years now. So when I see people talk about San Gabriel specifically, it brings up a lot of fun memories.
So what were some of those memories as a child growing up here?
Oh man. You know what was great about it, and that's what actually started the love for food is growing up in a neighborhood where I had a Japanese neighbor. Across the street was one of my Korean friends, Vietnamese, Mexican, of course, and it was just a mix of different cultures and personality. I always remember that. That's something, maybe because of what I do now and what my passion is, that's something that I've always loved. And just trying out the different restaurants and having these new different restaurants come in around the time that I was growing up, that's one of my biggest memories.
Did you break bread at your friends' houses? Like, did they invite you into their home and have these, different ethnic foods with them?
Oh, that was the best part. So like from an early age, I remember one of the memories that I have is going across to my friend's, to my Korean friend's house, and his mom would make, at that time I didn't realize it, but like a bulgogi sandwich. But it would just be on white bread, mayonnaise, and the bulgogi meat, and I loved that. And I loved it. I had no idea what it was. It's a taste that I never really had at that time. So loved it. My friend next door to me, one of my best friends, I remember he would eat like shrimp chips or like, and I would smell like, whoa, it's a strong scent. But then I would try it out. I was always open to try different things. So definitely, that's where it all started.
Yeah, one of the unique things about growing up in this area is that it's so commonplace for the cultures to mix in this way that if you're. Are you Mexican?
Yes.
So you're Mexican and you're like, oh, let me take you to this Korean place or this pho place, and vice versa, right? Like you can have Asian friends taking you to this, Mexican restaurant, but it's just normal here because we all grew up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So right across the street, when I went to Jefferson, there was a little place around the corner I think there's a Popeyes there now. Right next door, there was a little place at a Vietnamese spot. They used to sell banh mi's. I don't know if they're still there. Actually, I have to check it out. They used to sell banh mi's and spring rolls. So we would go there before school and grab spring rolls. That was my first time trying those. That was in 7th and 8th grade. Yeah, that was around when I was growing up. That was when we were starting to see a lot more Asian restaurants that were popping up in the area.
Yes, I forgot that a lot of Vietnamese banh mi places open like at 6 a.m. or something.
Yeah, that's exactly. We'd go over there and get the spring rolls, and that's what we would eat before school.
And what kind of kid were you? What kind of stuff did you get into as a kid?
Oh, man. Well, I love sports. I was a pretty active kid. Going in Jefferson, if people remember me from Jefferson or San Gabriel High School, how could I say it? I wasn't the best student. Actually, going into high school, I was a pretty good student before high school, but I got into a lot of crazy stuff, fun stuff. But mostly I was into sports, and I had my friends that we would, at an early age, we started getting into like house parties, and I was kind of into that scene.
Is that the same as like, would they be called ditch parties or?
Yeah, exactly. I laugh about it right now, but yeah, back in 7th and 8th grade and going into high school, we would go to ditch parties. We would, I remember times we would meet at Spike's back in the day.
So you're right there.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd meet at, they would have, this was during Map Points. Now it's funny because now there's an Instagram page called Map Points, but you would go and meet at Spike's, get a map, and that would take you to wherever the underground party was or whatever the house party was, or there would be ditching parties. So I was a pretty good student, so I kind of was able to hide the fact that I was also going out and partying with my friends from my parents for a while.
Did you ever get in trouble?
I didn't really get into too much trouble until probably not till my senior year, some right around there.
What happened?
Just, man, I threw a ditch party at my house. I've thrown a couple of those actually. I used to throw ditching parties at my house when I went to San Gabriel, and that's funny. I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but that's hilarious. But I remember I would do my best to clean everything up, and the funniest thing is that was the dead giveaway, because my parents came home and realized that everything was clean, and it's like, why is the backyard like super clean? And they found out. Talked to the neighbors and found out I had a bunch of people over. So I would get into stuff like that. We would sneak out all the time and go to different, I was really into music as well, sort of punk music, some goth music. And we would sneak out and go to concerts at an early age.
Wow.
I was kind of a bad kid, but I didn't get into too much trouble. Like never got into trouble with the law or anything.
Wow. And what's the appeal of these parties? Like just getting together, having fun?
Yeah, I always loved music as well, and it was just hanging out with my friends and trying to be a part of music groups, or back then they called them, what were they, like party crews. So we were just the young kids running around. But I think what started also is that a couple of my good friends that I grew up with, their older brothers were in party crews, like SGV party crews back then. So we kind of just followed them along.
A former guest was doing this also, and he got caught because his mom looked in his backpack and there was all these flyers.
Oh yeah.
But he said at like 17 he was making bank because they would charge for these parties.
Well, that's actually interesting because there's a lot of stuff that I forgot about during that time, probably because of the drugs I took. But I had my friend brings it up. We actually used to pass out flyers when we were, I guess we were about 16 because we were able to. Maybe 15, 16, we'd actually sometimes take the bus down or drive down to Venice Beach or Melrose and pass out flyers. And back then, I didn't realize it, but I'm going to forget the guy's name. But we were working for Insomniac Productions. Well, not really working. The guy would just give us a stack of flyers and we would just go out. But now that's the same Insomniac that throws the big EDC. I believe his name is Dimitri. He's still a big part of it. I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought it was fun to get a stack of flyers and go out. That was a great way to go meet girls as well, because you're handing out flyers, passing them, trying to get them to come to the parties.
That's funny, Insomniac. So I went to the first EDC. I went to the first Monster Massive, the first Nocturnal. They were all at National Orange Show though.
Yep.
And that was pretty big then. But now like they're crazy, enormous.
It was maybe $25 at the most, but we were part of that whole scene, just going to it. Not really. I wasn't, other than passing out flyers, I wasn't really that big of a part of it, but just enjoying it.
You remember you used to like call this number and you had to go to this place, and then you go there and then you got directions to go to this other place.
The map points.
I remember one time we got directions and it was high desert.
Oh yeah.
And we're like driving for like an hour and a half. We're like, is this the right place? And then we get off the exit. There's nothing. We keep driving. You can see some lights, and then we park the car because there's a whole bunch of cars, and you just hear like.
Exactly. You know what? And those we went to so many of those parties, and I don't remember a lot of the names, but we'll be talking because my wife is actually into EDC, so we every now and then we'll go to a couple raves a year still, and she has no idea what I used to be into because I'm sort of like a square now. I don't really party too much, And so she can't believe all the stuff that we used to do. But my friend brings up, he'll drop all the different names of the different raves. And I'm like, wow, I forgot that we went to all that. Circa, I went to the first Circa. But it was the same thing. We'd get the map and drive somewhere, go to some sketchy warehouse. It was just fun. The stuff that I did in high school, I just pray that my boys don't get into it.
So this is a different side of you that people may not know.
Well, what's hilarious, I had no idea we were going to get into it, but it was actually a big part of my SGV life, at least in high school. I don't know if anyone's ever brought this up or if you know this, but Flair Drive in El Monte, I don't know if you know where that is. And then the Sears building, I don't know if you remember the Sears building off of Rosemead in Rosemead. So they used to throw underground parties in those locations until the cops would come break it up. So those were the spots that we would come, and we were young, so we couldn't drive at the time. So we'd come and meet at Spike's and just ask people if we could just jump in the car with them. They usually would let us. We were little kids. We were probably 7th and 8th grade. In fact, funny story about that is I remember we would get dropped off at the San Gabriel roller rink, which was down San Gabriel Boulevard, or the bowling alley.
Yeah.
So our parents would drop us off there, and then we would walk down to Spike's. That's where everybody met, and we would jump in the cars and go to these underground parties when we were, maybe 13, 14 years old. That's when we started.
What a different time it was then, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. People that grew up in the mid 90s or probably early 90s in San Gabriel Valley, it was wild times. It was fun. That's why I think I started commenting on some of your pages. I saw some people talking about the wild times back then, and I do remember it was pretty wild.
And no cameras everywhere.
Oh no. Right? We had a couple girlfriends that would take some pictures, but other than that, I've been trying to find old pictures, but can't find them, which is probably a good thing. But can't find stuff. It would be nice to have a couple of them here and there. But yeah, we did a lot of fun, crazy things.
Okay, so we're getting a picture of who you were as a young person there, and it sounds like you were sort of involved in all the things SGV around here.
Yeah. I would say at a young age. So I went to Wilson Elementary School. Well, I first went to Roosevelt, went to Wilson Elementary School, then went to a school called Bella Vista in Monterey Park. So I think that's when very different cultures at each of those schools. So I got connected with a lot of different people and met a lot of different friends. For the most part, up until my high school years, I was totally into sports. Baseball was my thing. So I still have a lot of friends that actually went, I grew up playing Sunny Slope baseball, which is in San Gabriel. Well, it used to be in San Gabriel. I'm not sure it's there anymore, but grew up there. My dad was a big part of that as well. He was president of the league at some point, but always coached me. So I was big into sports. Then it kind of took a turn in my high school years. I still played sports, but that's when I think I discovered hanging out with girls was pretty fun, and then getting into the party scene. People will probably remember me more for those days if they know me from San Gabriel.
Do you encounter a lot of people from this area in your early days reaching out and like, hey, I remember you, from high school or whatever?
Not too much, but I have recently a couple people that have reached out, and I actually a few people from me commenting on your page is how people connected with me. Like, oh, hey, I remember you, and they would just DM me. And then, so I've been wanting to connect with some of them, but not so much. I don't really have as much connection to my past now so a lot of my friends are just friends that I've had forever, but outside of that circle, I never really stayed connected with anybody, but every now and then I connect.
What's one of your fondest memories from that time of, partying and experiencing that life here?
I just think experiencing the different part, just experiencing life in different parties, and we got into a lot of crazy stuff, but nothing too bad.
So were your parents are just completely oblivious?
I've always wondered that, because I was the youngest of 5, and I think that maybe my parents kind of just at that point were like, let him do his thing. I'm not sure, but I think in large part is because I was doing well in school up until a while, that I kind of would be able to talk my way into things and get out of trouble, I guess. So I I don't know if they're completely oblivious. I would have to talk to them. I've never really talked to them about that.
And did you know who you were at that point? Did you know the things that you wanted to pursue in life?
No, I didn't. I was still, I think I always had this identity issues because of the different schools that I went to. And I still have that in large part today. As when I started the food page, I struggled with it, with just the overall identity. I think because I grew up in San Gabriel, going to Wilson, which was probably, I guess at that time was predominantly white in that area. So I had a lot of white friends, and then I would go and hang out on my mom's side of the family, which grew up in Lincoln Heights, El Sereno area, which is where I live now, and completely different type of culture. And they would hear me talk. I didn't speak Spanish. Then they're like, dude, you sound like a white guy. I'm like, this is just how I talk. So there was a lot of that. I always knew that I was a creative person, and that's going back to when 7th, 8th grade, I used to write a lot. Used to write a little bit of, I thought, writing poetry. I was into music. I knew that the creative side of me was a big part of me. However, I really didn't pursue it. My parents they were very supportive, but they didn't really understand that side of it. And they kind of sort of pushed me into a different direction. I went to a Don Bosco Tech, which is like a trade school for high school. So they kind of pushed me into the working in construction, which is something that I just didn't enjoy at all. So they kind of pushed me into that. So I never pursued the creative side of me until later on in life. So I kind of knew what I wanted, but I was still kind of lost around that time.
Did you have any mentors or influential people in your life to sort of help guide you to find what it is that you like, or did you have to make that journey on your own?
I had to make that journey on my own. I really didn't have any mentors to do that for me. In fact, one of the memories that I have from San Gabriel is I wish I knew her name, but it was a counselor that I remember her being sort of this, she was into Gothic music, and I thought she was so cool. She was probably on the younger side, and she knew about that creative side of me. I was kind of a rebellious kid. Well, obviously, I was, doing drugs and partying and stuff. But she saw that part of me, and she knew I was into writing. And I remember she put me into an advanced English class that was creative writing. And those teachers took me in. I wasn't the best student, so I didn't have good grades. So kind of as a favor, they brought me in, not knowing that I didn't have great grades, but they had me write an essay. I wrote the essay. I remember, I still have that actually. And I gave it to them, and they were like, wow, this is good. We'll take you in. But I was having an issue ditching school at the time. They said, but you can't miss any class. I was ditching school all the time. You can't miss any class or you're kicked out. Well, maybe 2 or 3 classes in, I ditched the class, and that was it. I look back at that time, and that was an opportunity lost because they probably could have been a pretty good mentor. I don't remember the teachers' names, but I think about that. I'm like, man, that was a lost opportunity because they really were encouraging the creative side of me and writing, and I kind of just killed that one.
What did you get into after high school in terms of work, and what did you pursue?
I guess I've always been a pretty good salesperson. That probably goes back to me being able to talk my way out of things and with my parents and get away with stuff. But after school, I went to PCC for a little bit, and just school was just never, I think I loved learning, but the structure was just never for me. And my parents at that time told me, look, you either go to college or you got to start paying rent in the house. And I went and got a job, and I started paying rent. So I excelled pretty good at that time. I forgot what job I had, but I just started working full time, and probably around 18, 19, I started making pretty decent money for my age, and I had a pretty good career for the next 10, 15 years after that. So I was in the corporate world. I worked for Countrywide doing mortgages, and I worked for Earthlink right after that. So I always had really good jobs.
Were you enjoying that?
Yeah, actually early on I was enjoying it because I figured I was really good at it. So, and I was really good at sales. And so I did enjoy it. I was always competitive too. So that being in that role of competing for sales, competing against other different people, but I would always get bored. Like I would work and work my way into a higher position, and then get bored and lose the job or quit the job.
So at Countrywide and Earthlink, did you have any opportunity to express your creativity, or just corporate world?
No, not really. It was just a corporate world. That's once I did that. So I would say that helped me out, because when I was around 18 or 19 is when I started getting into these jobs and getting these new opportunities. I kind of separated myself from my friends that were still partying, which helped me out a lot. I think that's just having that success helped drive me. And it was, I think, making my parents proud, like, hey, this guy's actually making something out of himself. And I use that as my identity. I have a great job. So regardless of what I did in the past, now I have a good job and I have a career, or I'm working on a career. But I never was able to tap into my creative side. I kind of just put that past me and was focusing on work.
So how did it come back around?
Well, I would say that I've always been into food, and what happened is when one of my jobs, I started traveling a lot domestically. So I was going to New York, Chicago, Texas, and that's when I started really getting into the food. And I would look up all the different restaurants when I would go travel, and I would get a list of all the different restaurants that I wanted to go to, and I would start taking pictures. So that was probably when Instagram was taking off. So that I would just start taking pictures, and that's when the creative side started coming out again. Like get a cool angle of the picture, write a little bit about the food. It probably wasn't Yelp back then. I forgot what the name, maybe Foursquare. Do you remember that? I don't.
Vaguely.
Yeah, it might have been that. So that's actually what sparked the creative side of me and the food coming together.
What were you looking up these restaurants on? Like Yelp or food blogs?
I was trying to think about that. So a lot of it was just from watching food channels, watching the Food Network, and I would get a list of the different restaurants that they would feature. PBS had food shows back in the day, and I would do that. And maybe, I don't remember if TripAdvisor maybe was around. I worked at Yahoo for years, so Yahoo had a listing. You could go on there and do a search. That's when that was already around. So I would look it up, because there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook at the time.
Man, Food Network. I used to watch so much Food Network. Good Eats was probably one of my favorite shows.
Yep.
Bizarre Foods. Yeah, Anthony Bourdain. I watched a lot of Food Network.
I was hooked on all those shows. Actually, when I would come home and I would just watch all those shows. But even in high school and before that, on PBS, you would have the different food channels that would come on. I was really into the cooking shows back then, because I love to cook. So I would watch the cooking shows, and I guess I would express a lot of my creativity through cooking as well.
Yeah.
And that started at an early age when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I continued that until now.
And what kind of foods were you cooking?
From what I remember, my mom told me I used to do a lot of baking. So I remember doing baking, cookies, cakes, maybe 6th, 7th grade. Both my parents worked, so I would come home. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but they were older, so I was the youngest. So nobody was home when I would come home, and that's when I really started cooking for myself. Early teens, or even before that, and I would just, whatever was in the kitchen, I would just whip up different meals for myself. That was where, like, my love for food and creating stuff. In fact, I want to actually start a series where I'm like cooking some of those dishes, like do it now for my Instagram page.
Okay.
I would just kind of make things up.
And those are the best ones, right?
No, absolutely. Yep.
I used to microwave bacon.
Oh man. My dad would get so mad because I don't know if you ever did this, but I would get hot dogs and grill right over the open flame.
Oh yeah,
like the
I
stove,
did that. Yeah.
And then my dad would get so mad because I would make a big mess. I would always make a huge mess, so they would get upset. But I was cooking for myself at that age.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so we're getting a picture of who you were at this time and sort of building that all up. And you're traveling. You're getting this creativity spark. By visiting these restaurants. And at that time, were people making a living off of, doing food reviews?
I don't think so. Not at that. YouTube was around, and I know people were doing food reviews on YouTube, but I would say this probably was around 2012, 2013 when I was able to travel. And prior to that, I'd gone to Europe for a while, for about a month or so, but I didn't have very much money at that time, so we were eating a lot of street food, and that's where a lot of my love for street food came about as well. So at that time, I don't think too many people were making money. Instagram was just taking off, I think around 2014, around there.
I think so.
And I hadn't started my Instagram page just yet. I knew about it, but it was more Facebook, MySpace, and I was posting stuff to that. But I wasn't. It would mostly be my personal stuff. I love sports, like my sports teams and everything. And every now and then I'd post like a burger or a steak, but it was never a food page. I think that's when it started.
There was like a few people who were reviewing restaurants like on blogs. I remember reading some of those. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool, but the writing was just too much for me. Like, cause I wouldn't want to have to write, all this content all the time.
Right.
That was just too much. But I remember seeing it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
I think I started seeing that too. That was, I saw people's blogs, but I remember that's when I was introduced to like Rick Steves. If you remember his travel, he would have a travel book. So when we would go, and when we were in Europe we went to about 7 or 8 different countries. It was like the Rick Steves travel guide. And then you would run into these different bloggers online and print out all their maps of the different restaurants.
I've shared this story before, but it's relevant here, so I'm going to share it again. Mm-hmm. In 2015, a friend of mine invited me to go to a lecture at the Norton Simon Museum on 15th, 16th century art in Italy. I'm like, dude, that is not my thing. Right? I was like, okay, I'll go, just to see. And the lecturer was a professor at Cal State Long Beach. And she was super passionate. I mean, like just oozing out of her. She was so passionate about this. I was like, okay, now I'm interested. And she said that in this time, 1600s, there was this traveler traveling around. And if you wanted to document it, you had to have a scribe, which costs a lot of money. But if you wanted to document it with picture, you needed an artist, which is even more money. But this person was very wealthy. So they did that and they put it into this book. And in this book, it talked about like, go to this restaurant, order this food, don't order that food. Go, then travel on this road to go here. And it had all the pictures and everything. And she said this was the very first travel book.
Wow. I love it.
And then I was like, it's the same thing happening now, right? People want to know like, where do you go? What do you get? What to avoid? How to get there? I was like, this is crazy. This is like 500-600 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love history. That was the one class in school that I would thrive, because I love history. I love learning about different cultures. And so when I would travel, I would always try to learn as much as I could about the city. And from that's when I would start incorporating the different food in the different restaurants and learning about the different cultures and when they moved there and why it started and why there's like a fusion of different dishes. That's what sparked it. So what's interesting about that is when people would travel, some of my friends and family, that they would come to me and ask for a list of different spots that they should go to. So I loved writing down lists. So that's what really got me into start posting on Instagram and doing that.
Wow.
But before I never thought anything of it. I just loved doing it. Write down a bunch of lists for people. Used to love that.
David, before we go on with your story, we ask each guest to bring an item with them.
Yep.
What did you bring with you today?
So this is the why. This is ultrasound of my twin boys. This is something that I carry around with me. This is either in my backpack full of my camera equipment, or it's always in my car. It means a lot to me because around the time that I started my food page and kind of turning things around for me, because I was going through some rough times. My wife, at that time, we weren't married, but we got pregnant, and then she lost the baby. And so that was tough, going through that. fast forward maybe 6 months, a year or so, she got pregnant again. And so we were obviously joyful. We went through a rough time for that. And a few months in, one of my sons was diagnosed with Down syndrome. So
In the womb.
In the womb, yep. We knew that there was there were sort of red flags, and it was rough finding that out because we had just come off of losing one baby, and at that time we didn't know much about Down syndrome, but we knew that there was that children with Down syndrome, there's a tendency to have complications with the heart during the pregnancy. And so that was tough. And we went through this whole why us, like why are we going through this? This was during COVID. So we would go to the appointments, but I couldn't be in the room with my wife. And every time that we went into the room, or every time she went into the room, I would have to FaceTime. And it was tough. FaceTiming, you would lose connection. But the tough part is since we knew that our son had Down syndrome, every time we went in, we were just so anxious to hear the heartbeat because we were always afraid, like, are we going to lose a baby? We had twins. Could it cause complications with my wife, complications with my other son as well? But it didn't. And we have 2 healthy boys out of it. But it was a really difficult time, like going into I'm on the call, waiting for us to hear the heartbeat, not knowing if there's going to be any kind of complications. So this was taken in December, about a month or about 20 or 30 days before they were born. And we were lucky to have 2 healthy babies. And at that time, we didn't know much about Down syndrome. We didn't know what we were going to go through, but now it's just amazing. And we realize he's a little different than my other son, but given the same type of opportunities, he'll have some limitations, the we try to give him the same type of opportunities. And that's why I carry this. Like everything that I changed my mindset about what my career was going to be, what I wanted to do was because of my 2 boys. So that's why I carry this around.
Well, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned that you were already going through some difficult times before the first loss of your child. I want to get into that, but I'm curious about this. Did anybody suggest to you to abort your child?
Yeah, that was tough because I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a high percentage that your child, once diagnosed, could have heart issues and possibly could have surgery if they're born, but it's pretty high, and because of what we went through. But hearing the doctor ask us about what will your decision be if we do, because at this time we didn't know 100% that he had Down syndrome because we were going through the testing. They ask you if you want to do a test to find out actually if your kid has Down syndrome or just find out at birth. So, but we made the decision to find out. And at that time, the doctor asked us, what will your decision be if we find out that he does have Down syndrome? And I was shocked that he asked that because there was no doubt that we were going to have our baby no matter what. Maybe if there was concerns that it would harm my wife, but we didn't even think about that. Just that's something at that time, it kind of hurt me, and I was taken aback. Like, why would you ask that? But I know it's something that is common, and people have a misunderstanding of children that have that disability. But we were never in doubt. We were gonna have my son. His name Mateo. We were gonna have Mateo, and we were just gonna, whatever that we had to deal with, or we were gonna take it on.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I asked that because I know that it's often recommended. I don't know if it's always recommended or asked, and that test is not even 100% accurate. Right. Which is crazy. That's crazy to me.
Exactly. And we actually went back and forth on whether we were going to take the test anyway. You have to go see a specialist, and that's more appointments that we had to go through. The test isn't 100%. And I remember, man, that was a tough one because you go and take the test, and then they're going to call you and let you know. And we were actually going away for a trip this particular weekend when I got the call. And my wife was going on a girls' trip. I was going on another trip with my friends. There was a birthday party going on. So we were both out of town, and I got the call on Friday. I saw the call coming in, and I didn't take the call. I said, you know what, whatever they're going to say, I'm just going to go and enjoy my weekend, and whatever it is, I'm going to think about it, and we're going to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to react. So I held off, and what's interesting, that weekend, everybody's like, oh, it's going to come back negative. Everything's going to be fine. Like nothing to worry about. And I was thinking in my head, yeah, it's going to come back negative. There's not going to be any issues. And I didn't tell my wife that I got the call. I just wanted her to enjoy the weekend. So on Monday, she went to work, and I called the doctor to find out. I was expecting them to say, yeah, everything's fine. It's just negative. But they told me, it was positive. And I started crying, and I didn't know how to take it at that time, because you don't know what your life is going to be. You don't know how his life is going to be. And I call my cousin, come pick me up. We rushed down to go tell my wife. And I remember going up to her, and as soon as she sees me at her work, she knows right away. Like, why am I there? And she starts crying. So, but looking back, it's one of those things, you're sad and you're upset about it. But telling all the parents now I have this amazing son. It's just you don't know what you're getting into. You don't have enough information. But now, man, Mateo's a great kid and he's healthy. So at that time we were sad about it, but now I look back like we're just joyful now that we have him, that he's healthy.
That's beautiful.
So,
and are there like levels or degrees of Down syndrome?
And that's what you learn now. It's sort of like autism, where now that there's a spectrum, right? You call it a spectrum. There's different levels to it. It's what we've learned since is there's different levels. We actually don't know what all his limitations are going to be, and that's why it's so important. And I like to speak out about it. I don't consider myself like a big advocate. I should get more involved, but we have a great group of friends that have children with Down syndrome. It's a support group that we met from a club it's called Club 21 in Pasadena. They connect you with parents that have children with Down syndrome, and you learn that there are different levels. So you actually don't know what type of limitations that your child is going to have until they start growing. So you do know that there are going to be some physical limitations. My son is not going to be as tall or as strong as my other son, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to limit to him on what he could do. And then there's cognitive limitations as well, but we don't know what he's going to be able to develop. So we try to give him as many opportunities when it comes to speech. He doesn't talk yet. He says certain words, but he can't put sentences together yet. But yeah.
How old is he?
They're going to be 5 years old. So the way that we look at it is that there's different milestones, and they're just achieved at different rates. Right? My son started walking first, and then Mateo started walking afterwards. So it's just different milestones.
It sounds like that really would have been a big shift in your life and perspective and looking at things. Having a son like that. Actually, just having a child is a huge shift in your life.
I think that's what it is. It does present its challenges, but just having two sons and they're pretty wild kids. It's hilarious because my wife obviously knows about what I went through and what I put my parents through in high school and all the crazy stuff, and she always asks, why do I have to go through this? Like what did I do to deserve? Because my son is a pretty wild little kid too. He gets it. They both love to get into a bunch of different stuff, but they're great. They're great kids.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
Before we move on, I want to take a step back. You did say you were going through some difficulties before the loss of your child. Yep. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I lost my job that I had. I was working at a great company. I was working at Yahoo for, I believe, 10 to 12 years, doing well for myself.
What were you doing there?
I was always in sales and marketing. So I was working with agencies and just on the marketing side, sales and marketing side of it, training on our different products. It was a great job, but I mean, I was pretty miserable the last couple of years that I was there anyway. It just, I was doing well early on. In the last couple of years, it just wasn't for me anymore. But I lost the job, which was tough.
Meaning they let you go?
They let me go. Yeah, I actually, there was a ton of different layoffs. I survived those. But then after that, I just wasn't performing. I lost the passion. I wasn't performing. So they let me go. But I made a good amount of money. I was single at the time, no kids. And I decided that I was going to take 6 months off and just do some traveling. And that was about the time when I started my Instagram page. I was living in Pasadena at the time at the Gold Line station, at the Del Mar station specifically. So I would jump on the train and have a good time going to all the different restaurants, going to different bars. And so I said, look, let me take 6 months off and I'm going to enjoy myself. Then I'll figure things out, what I'm going to do, just probably go back into sales. But I knew deep inside, I didn't want to go back into the corporate world. I just went through that, wasn't going to do it. But what happened is 6 months turned into a year, turned into a year and a half. I made some poor financial decisions at that time. Started drinking a lot during that time and just hanging out. I basically blew through all my money. So the financial decisions, I did some pretty bad investments at the time. I'm like, this is it. We're gonna get into a couple different companies, start a couple different companies. That just didn't work out, didn't pan out. So now I found myself like pretty much in debt. So I had a nice cushion and I was in a rut, and that I basically had to move back in with my parents. So that was a gut check because I hadn't lived with them since, actually I left when I was a teenager. And so that was tough. So that's what I was going through. And around that time, that's when I started my Instagram page. So I started getting a few different opportunities with that. And that was around the time where I wanted to, maybe I could pursue food and working with different restaurants. So I started doing social media for some of these restaurants that I would feature along the Gold Line route. And that's how the page started.
Well, awesome. I'm excited to get into that story, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh,
their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with David. Before the break, you were sharing how you sort of, maybe were at a lower point in your career and started building things up and then getting into what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that story, though, when we come back from the break, we'd like to ask questions from this deck of cards called Icebreakers. And it's just a fun way for the listening audience to get to know us a little bit better. I'll be answering as well. So the question is, what was the hardest decision you've ever had to make?
Leaving my job once I had my kids and pursuing content creation full time. That was definitely the hardest decision I had to make, jumping into that and not exactly knowing where it would take me. And we could get into that a little bit later, but I give so much credit to my wife for blessing me with that and allowing me to make that decision.
I'm sure that's a pretty big and scary jump for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
God, the hardest decision. I mean, my family lives in Canada. My wife and kids live in Canada. When we lost trial to move my stepdaughter here in 2020, I asked my wife, I go, do I move there and start over, or do I stay here and, build off the life that I've built here? And the decision was made to stay here. And that means spending a significant amount of time away from them. Yeah. 6 months out of the year, So that was hard. It's still hard whenever I say goodbye. But yeah, and I always, now it's been 5 years going on 6, and I always wonder what life would have been, even if I started at the very, very bottom to start over in a new place. But I would have been there the whole time, and I don't know. So it's still sort of evolving, but that's a pretty hard decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you're watching or listening online, let us know what's the hardest decision you've ever had to make. We sort of jumped ahead with that decision to go full time, but you're blowing through a bunch of money here. You make some bad decisions, but you're doing your food content stuff.
I basically was in debt, and I was just trying to pick up jobs wherever I could. I was back living with my parents, and I was just doing everything to get out of there, right? So, I'm thankful that they helped me to move in so I could pay off some debt and get things situated again. At that time, I was dating my now wife, so we were dating, and so I made connections doing let me take a step back. So the reason why I started my Instagram page was because that's when social media was actually starting to take off, and I didn't know much about it. I was familiar because my background was with digital marketing, search marketing. That's what I was doing at Yahoo, working with local businesses, working with some big clients as well. And I knew things were shifting towards social media, but I knew nothing about it. So I figured it would be a good way. I love food. I love taking pictures. This will also help me learn about social media, and I could probably put that on my resume. And when I go and get a new job, instead of showing a gap of a year and a half of not working, I could actually use that as a way of putting on my resume and learning social media and learning new things about marketing. So I was going out and taking pictures, and I connected with different restaurants, and that's when they started saying, hey, well, can you come in and take some pictures for us? We'll pay you. And I'm like, wow, you're going to pay me to come in and take pictures? Because before I was just doing it for fun. That started. Then I had a couple of restaurants and asked me if I could run their social media. And at this time, it was just pictures on Instagram. So it was much easier. Go in there, take pictures, and I would go visit different restaurants. This is my page started taking off. Maybe I had about 1,500 or so followers at the time, which was pretty good for just starting. And I would get invited to different restaurants. I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I could do something with this. I took on a couple of clients. And so I started getting money coming in from that. And then I started getting money one-offs to go out and take pictures for other different restaurants. I figured, I'm like, hey, maybe I could make a business out of this. I started reaching out to different restaurants and asking if I could manage their social media pages. So I started doing that, and I got 4 or 5. And I was like, wow, all right, now we're starting to make a little bit more money, kind of digging my way out of the hole that I was in. I also started feeling much better about myself because now I have some direction in my life. Started doing that. And then I remember working with a couple. I remember this one particular person that I worked with, and he had asked me, he's like, hey, I'm doing a pop-up. He used to do pop-ups. We used to at Boomtown Brewery. So he used to do a taco pop-up there, and he was going to do an event. He's like, hey, I actually need some help. Would you be able to come and help me out with the food pop-up? I'm like, man, I have no clue on how to run a not run a pop-up, but cook for people. And he's like, don't worry about it. You could just run the register. And so I was like, all right, I'll help you out. It sounds fun. So I started working with him. Next thing you know, I was picking up jobs like that. So in addition to the social media stuff, I was always good at just talking with customers. I loved talking with different customers, talking about the food. Next thing you know, all these different people are asking me, hey, can you come and help me with this pop-up? You could run the front of the house, working the money. So in addition to the social media stuff, that's when I started working in food and doing the actual working in different pop-ups and making money from there. So I was making, anytime I needed extra cash, I would just call some of these guys that were doing pop-ups, hey, do you need an extra hand? And started working with them. So I started working with different barbecue pop-ups. One of my good friends now is Andrew and Michelle of Moose Craft Barbecue. Not sure if you've heard of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So a lot of people know me from those days because I would help them out with pop-ups. But it's one of those things that I look back and I went from making 6-figure salary working with Yahoo to basically being broke to literally washing dishes because I started working these pop-ups and making cash, which I needed. And I'm in the kitchen washing dishes. So it was like putting things into perspective. But I actually enjoyed it. Like getting in there and helping out with the prep and doing pop-ups. And I was working at Smorgasburg for a time being. It's tough work, man. That's why I've gained so much respect for the people that continue to do it for a living. Because at that time, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'll get into the food business myself, which I actually did for a little bit. I'll create, maybe I want to open up a restaurant, but I quickly learned like it's just too much work. I didn't have the passion to pursue that part of it. But yeah, I remember meeting so many different people, and most people treated you very well, but then you meet people that treat you as, hey, you're the person washing the dishes, and you're the person kind of cleaning things up. And in my head, it would be a gut check at sometimes, because sometimes the way that they would treat you, and I would say, man, just 2 years ago, I was making 6 figures. You have no idea. Sometimes I would find myself telling people that, and I would say, why am I doing that? I don't need to tell anybody that story. But it would just be my ego getting the best of me. But yeah, I loved it. I loved working in the food industry. I loved that grind for a while. So
thanks for sharing all that. And you said you made a leap to do food content full time. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment where you're like, yeah, I can do this, or it's still kind of a risk?
So I'm doing the social media, and I'm also helping out in the food, doing the pop-ups. Now, this is right before COVID hits, right? So I have a handful of social media accounts, so I'm making pretty good money. I'm helping out in the food pop-ups. I was actually managing a food truck at the time. I was actually managing a few different pop-ups at the time. So I was making pretty decent money. Cash was coming in. I was getting back into it. My then girlfriend at the time, like things were going well. COVID hits. I lose all my social media clients because they're all restaurants. I lost all of them, lost the pop-up business. And I'm like, holy shit. That was my oh shit moment. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because at that time, then we found out that we're having our twin boys. So I'm like, I'm having twin boys. I don't have much money coming in other than unemployment at the time, because I was able to collect unemployment at that time, and that's it. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I actually went back into the corporate world and got a full-time job. I had to do it. My sons were going to be born, so I'm grateful for that too. I got an opportunity, got back into that, started making decent money again, but I knew there was a paycheck that was going to be coming in. That's the tough part, as you probably know, working. You've talked to so many different restaurant owners. When you get started, man, that paycheck, you don't know what that paycheck is going to be. Well, for any business owner. You might not make any money one month, and you make great money the next month, but it's always uncertain. So I went back to work and started getting that paycheck coming in, and then, man, about 6 months into it, I was miserable again, because I knew this just wasn't for me. So at that time, I told myself, and working full time and having twin boys, running the Instagram page. And at this time, I didn't have any more social media clients. I really wasn't making it. I wasn't making any money off of it. I told myself I need to just let the Instagram page go. It was too much work, too much money being spent into it. So I was about to quit. I was again in a bad place. I was miserable. But even though I was paying the bills, I was miserable. So, but I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to give myself 6 months to really try to grow the page. And if nothing comes of it, and I don't get any new opportunities, I'm just going to quit and just focus on my career. And at that time, my nephews and nieces were like, well, if you want to grow your page, you got to get in front of the camera. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. So I was always doing behind the scenes stuff. I was going in and creating the videos. I was rarely on camera. I'm like, and I thought about it. I'm like, I don't want to be on camera. I never wanted to be on camera, but I said I had to do what I had to do. So I remember doing my first video, and I told myself I was going to post a video of me being on camera, and I was so nervous the first few times. It took me, well, first few months, I should say, but I was going to post every single day for 6 months. And that's on top of my full-time job, on top of the kids. And I said, I'm going to do this, and if nothing happens, I'm quitting. Well, man, within 2 or 3 months, the page took off. New opportunities came up. And that's when I had a brand deal that came in, and I went to my boss and I told him, like, this just isn't for me. I asked to take some time off, and he was very supportive. I told him I have an opportunity to pursue, to shoot some food content it was with Metro at the time. And he actually let me take some time off. But as long as I came back into to work with them, and about a week or two into that, that's when I went up to my wife knew I was miserable working at the job. And I asked my wife, I'm like, hey, I just want to quit. We have a little bit of money coming in from the social media side at this point now. I have some new opportunities, and I can't handle it. I know I'm not being the best husband. I'm coming home, I'm exhausted. And she said, go for it. And that's when I decided to take a leap of faith, and I quit my job, and here we are now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. What a story. So the first time I came across your content, you were doing your burrito challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I was like, I wish I could eat burritos like that every day. But then there was this way that you were connecting with us through the camera. And I don't know what it is. I think watching you eat the burrito, I was like, oh, I eat a burrito like that, you know? And watching the way you sauce it, I was like, oh, I put it like that and I'll take a bite, you know? Because, I mean, there's many other ways. You can unwrap it and pour it in there. And I was like, oh, this dude's eating it like me. And I just remember that. And I could see in your face, I was like, oh, he's actually really enjoying this, you know? And so I think that's when I first started following you. And then I've seen you, you know, do all kinds of other stuff. But the burrito review was the first introduction to your content. How did you come about that? Was that like your own idea? Like, tell us about that.
It was. Well, burrito content, well, for one, I love burritos. And anytime I would do burrito content, it would do very well. But the truth about that one is, the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to get more comfortable on camera and speaking to the camera at the time. So I told myself, let me challenge myself to do this burrito challenge, and I could kind of talk to it, review it, put sort of, at that point I was putting ratings on some of the burritos. I don't do a rating system anymore, but at that time it was just to get more comfortable on camera and kind of change things up. Because I was doing the food reviews, I was on camera, but I wasn't talking to the camera. And I do a lot of voiceovers now, but that actually helped me to get more comfortable. That was part of the reason.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it started with that. And also doing food, I know people are going to take this the wrong way, but unless you're in food content, it could get tough at times. I mean, relatively speaking, right? But going out there and doing different content, going to different restaurants, it gets tough staying on top of doing different content. And so I figured, well, if I do burritos, I know exactly where I'm going to go. I have a list of spots, make things easier. It's easy, same type of content. And I genuinely loved it. So I think it came across pretty well. So those burritos, it did well, and that helped the page as well.
And were none of those paid? There was just you going out there?
Maybe 2 of them were paid, but at that time, I was getting paid, some paid gigs from places, but the majority of my stuff I was just doing it on my own.
What would you say to that person who is just starting off in creating food content, doesn't know, or maybe they want to pursue, but they're like, oh, it's too much, or, you know, what's the advice that you would give to that person?
Consistency, but most importantly, being yourself. Because if you try to follow trends or try to be someone else or be someone that you're not, you're going to burn out really fast. To be where I'm at now and having these opportunities, I wonder, like, why me? Like, why are these brands reaching out to me, and why have I been successful with this? And it all comes back to when I talk to some of these brands, like, you just seem like a genuine or just an average guy. And I love that, because pretty much what you see on my videos is who I am. I probably actually tone it down a little bit on camera for the videos, because if you start talking about me, man, I get super excited and get really loud about when we're talking about food. I just love talking about food. We could talk about it all day long. So I think, but when I give people advice all the time, I say, look, you need to do the content that you love to do, but you have to be consistent and constantly trying to improve yourself. But really, you got to be yourself, or you're just going to burn out.
Yeah. That's awesome advice. Last question. All right, maybe this is 2 in 1 before we move on to the food part.
Yep.
What was tell me a story about one of the best and worst collaboration experiences that you've had.
Oh man. Fortunately, I haven't had too many bad experiences. I have gone to a couple places where they've invited me out, and just, man, the food was just terrible. And like, I remember one of them was a paid gig. And I went out there. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people. I think now people understand that a lot of these are paid gigs. You go to the restaurants, you feature them. I call them features because I don't rate the food. and one of them was a paid gig, and like the food was so bad. So I told
What was
him,
bad about it?
It was just,
You don't have to name it, but what kind of
I'm
restaurant
not
was
going
it?
to name it. I definitely wouldn't name it. It was more of a modern Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
So they were I felt like they were just going more for the vibe. Now it was a great chef was backed it. I just don't think the chef was really involved in it. And I don't know if it was just, we were there early, and I don't know if it was just, I'm not sure what happened. But we got the chips, came to the table with some beautiful looking guacamole, and the chips were stale. Everything, the food just they were out of items. I'm like, you just opened, you're already out of some of your best items. So I think it was an execution from the kitchen. So anyhow, I reached out to him. Now, the vibe of the place was really cool, and the drinks were really good. So I told him, look, don't even pay me on this. I can't take the money, but I don't trash restaurants ever. I just can't do it. I'm not going to do it. So what I did in that instance, and what I tell a lot of people, because they ask me all the time, hey, if you don't like the food, do you still say that the food's great? And I don't. I'm honest when it comes to the food. So in that particular video, I decided to post it, and you could see me. I just don't even talk about the food. I show it, and I focus on the vibe of the place, which was a really cool spot, and the drinks. I said, come here for happy hour, come here for the cocktails, come here for the vibe. And I left it at that.
People must have caught on to that though.
People do catch on to it, but it's funny because like people will accuse me. A lot of times they'll accuse me of, oh, you're just saying it's a great spot because you're getting paid. Half the time, or actually most of the time, a lot of those places, I just went in on my own and I did the video, and I genuinely loved the spot. I think people get caught up too much if the food's got to be great, or it's like what they'll say trash. But there's so much good food that's in between.
Yeah. And what about a great experience that you had?
I mean, I would say the great experiences are always the ones that I go in and it's like, and the great people, like mom and pop spots, those are the ones that I love to feature. But the ones that go viral and they have the lines out the door, those are some of the best experiences. I mean, I've had so much good food and great experiences when it comes to the food and connecting with people, but it's always about connecting with people. But the best experiences are when I go to a place and it goes viral and there's a line out the door and they message me and they're just thankful. One particular place, it was a pizza place in Rancho Cucamonga. Great spot. The Parlor Pizza, love their pizza. And I went out there, small little spot, did the video. It went viral. They had a line. It was so busy, they actually had to shut down for a couple days and bring in new people, new staff. But the next time I came out, the guy gives me a hug. He's like, we were busy on Fridays and Saturdays and weekends, of course, for pizza, but we've been busy all week long since. That one was awesome. And then recently I did, actually a few months back, it was Mr. Yu's Chinese food. Great guys, man. Those guys are great. They're in Montclair. And the guy was
that the orange chicken?
The orange chicken fries.
Yes.
Great guys, right? I did video for him before, and he invited me out to try the orange chicken fries. And at first I was like, oh man, I don't know. That sounds too gimmicky, but let's give it a try. And when I was talking to him, he was telling me that things had slowed down for him. Like things have been tough. It's been slowing down. This was like during the ice raids as well. So he was losing a lot of his customers because people weren't coming out as much. And so I was like, all right, let's do the video. We did the video and that one took off. And he sent me pictures of like their security cam and the place is packed. And oh man, that's just like the best feeling. And they've been super busy for those orange chicken fries like since. Let me tell you, those orange chicken fries are great. They were so good.
They look good.
They were so good, crispy. But those are the best experiences always.
Awesome. Well, we do the SGV3, right? And the difference between that and food content is people look at that content and they're like, oh, this isn't a food review, or this is just someone's like real, honest take on stuff.
Yep.
So we're going to get a little bit of of that SGV3, but from an actual food reviewer. So I'm excited to see what your 3 are. So let's get into it. So David, this is the SGV3, and we get to learn your 3 favorite places to eat in the San Gabriel Valley. And I can't imagine it being harder for any person.
Man, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking the same thing. This was such a tough list. I literally put a list together and trying to go through which were my favorites, right? what I'm going to do for you guys and for your audience, I don't know when this is going to be posted, but I'm going to put my full list together for my top SGV spots.
Wow.
Because typically what happens is somebody reaches out to me and asks me what's my favorite spots or where should I go. It opens up everything because I don't know. What are you looking for? What type of food? Do you want something casual? Do you want something more of a sit down place? Like what do you want to have cocktails with it? Like, I mean, it's endless and I could talk forever about it. So when I was putting this list together, it was tough.
I imagine.
What I'm not going to give you, I don't like to put, it's funny because my page is best of LA food, but it's rare that I'll put this is the best on there. I'm going to give you 3 spots, and this is what I thought of, and this was very difficult. A couple hole in the wall type places, some low key spots that are very good. And I don't know if anyone's brought this up, but there's one particular one. We'll start with this one. It's called Top Restaurant in Pasadena. Have you ever heard of it?
I think I've seen it, but
so Top Restaurant is it's an Indonesian / Hawaiian place.
I've been there. I live down the street from it.
Oh, okay. I love that spot. It's just a hole in the wall spot. Now it's just takeout, right? I feel like it's just the moms working back there. I don't know who else is helping her. And I love their fried chicken, the Indonesian fried chicken, but their barbecue short ribs, delicious, and their Indonesian fried rice. It's just a really casual hole in the wall spot. So love that spot.
That's in between the liquor store and Mr. Good Donut.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about the SGV in LA, right? All these little hidden gems that are in these
strip malls?
Yeah, all these hidden gems that are in strip malls, right? You wouldn't think of it. One of my favorite spots.
They would sell out on the fried chicken, and yet it would call ahead, and it comes with this dark, like, sort of sauce.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Dude, I love that place. And it's funny because that one went viral, and I was just thinking, I never went back over there. I'm like, because they don't have a social media presence. It's a little hold on. I'm like, oh, man. I know a few locals message me like, now there's a line at this place. Like, why did you do that? I get that all the time. People will say, why did you do a video? This was my spot. Now I have to wait in line. But I always tell them, hey, I'm sure the owners are appreciative of there being lines now.
Yes.
Business is so tough. So that's one of them. A second one, and it's so wild because they just messaged me today, and obviously they had no idea I was going to mention them. Lolita's in South El Monte. It's located in a gas station. Have you heard of these guys?
I've heard of it, yes.
Oh, man. Some of the best tortas. Their tortas are similar to Tito's Market, which is the Tito's Market down in El Monte.
Yeah.
So this is in South El Monte. It's located in a Shell gas station. It's the mom and son that's running this. The son I don't know if the son really works there, but it's the mom and a couple other ladies back there. But when you go there early, the line's like out the door of workers that are getting there early. You could get a massive burrito for $6-7. They make a great chilaquiles burrito, but I love their tortas, the Milanesa torta specifically. But it's interesting. They just messaged me today. They said they wanted, I didn't really read it, but maybe to come try a new item. Love that spot.
Wow, inside a Shell gas station.
Inside a Shell gas station, it's wild. Like tucked in the back, you wouldn't think there'd be something that great. And I used to see that place quite a bit. Drive by, and it said, I think it said tortas or carnitas in the back, and I always wondered because those are the hidden gems that I always want to dip into, find out what it's all about. And then I'm not sure if I saw a video or I just went in there, but I was like, how have I just discovered this place? This was just a couple years ago.
Okay, awesome.
So the third one is really difficult. I might have to name a couple. Okay.
Are you one of those, huh?
Yeah.
SGV 56.
It's just tough because maybe I'll stick to the third one because
I'm just joking.
There's just so many different places. I'm going to rattle off a few of them because I love Dim Sum Express, which is, I know it's not, people say it's not the best dim sum, but over here in Monterey Park, it's a little hole in the wall too. Like it's just a little window.
It's Emerson and Garfield.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people say, it's not the best. But you know what? I grew up eating that. It's great. Saucy Chicks. I know they were on here. Saucy Chicks is another great spot.
They haven't been on here, but we mentioned them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I saw them. Somebody mentioned them. Love the fusion of the Indian Mexican food. So I wanted to shout them out. They're great people that run it. Delicious food. But a place that we go to quite a bit, and I just did a video on them, is Kim Tar on Garvey.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorite spots. We've been going there for quite a while, and I just did a video. I'm going to post that this week. Love the lobster special with the garlic noodles, but anything house special there, great spot, man. That's one of my favorite, I guess, Vietnamese, Chinese fusion style food, but love that spot.
Yeah, I just went there recently for lunch, and I learned that you can get the house special on anything, even the chicken.
Absolutely. When we go there, it's funny because even when I go with just my wife and the kids, we'll still order a bunch of stuff. Everything on the menu is so good there. And I recently went with when we did the video. Actually, I went with one of my wife's best friends who's Vietnamese, and we've been there before with her. But we ordered a few dishes that she loves that I never had. A catfish soup. That was excellent. And
catfish soup.
It was a catfish soup. I was in the kitchen filming, and I got to see how they make it. Man, they're great with that wok. Man, they're so fast getting that stuff out there. But pretty much anything house special, yeah, I love that spot.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those.
Yep.
I know that was pretty tough for you.
Like I said, when this comes out, I'm gonna have that list ready.
Awesome. And send it to us. We'll put it in the show notes.
Definitely.
Well, David, thank you for coming here today and sharing your story with us. I didn't know what we were going to get into, and you shared some really personal stuff there. And I'm glad that the listener will get to learn that part of you, because maybe they just see what's on social media, but there's so much more to you as a person, as a father and as a husband. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. If you want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do that?
Best of LA Food. Best of LA Food on Instagram and on TikTok. And I'm getting more into YouTube as well. On YouTube, it's Dave Eats LA. So if you guys, I have some long form videos that are on there as well, a little bit more produced videos, and we're going to be doing more of those. I have a couple videographers that I work with that are great, and we're putting some of those together.
Awesome. Yep. Well, David, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there you go. Another episode in the books. I hope you enjoyed that. I had no idea where this conversation was going to go. Even speaking to him beforehand, as I do with all the guests, I have some sort of idea of where it's going to go. But I'm looking for the guest's ability to be authentic and vulnerable with all of us. And you got to see that today. What a powerful journey that he shared with us, and really difficult times there. And you only get to see all the good stuff, on social media, and you don't really know what people are struggling with or have gone through to get there. So, if you're struggling, or if you have these sort of aspirations to do stuff on social media, but, are struggling as well, this is a wonderful story, and I hope you got something from it. And if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to like and share. If you want to check out all of our episodes, go to our website, mysgv.net, and don't forget, pick up your MySGV food passport. We still have those at mysgvfoodpassport.com. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind of mother.